Hi, everyone. It's the second day of designer residency. Today, I'm going to share some ideas and mindful thought with Bandana Tewari about the title Sartorial Journey to Being Well. Namaste, Bandana.
Namaste. What a pleasure to be in your company. And hello to everyone who's listening in. I'm super
Yeah.
excited about this.
Yeah, Bandana, please introduce you to our audience first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my name is Bandana Tewari. I worked with Vogue India for 13 years.
Uh-huh.
I live in a big city called Bombay with 22 million people in a very small city and live the high life of fashion. But then I moved to Bali, and where my fashion journey changed, and I decided that I wanted to still work within the fashion industry, but I wanted to be a fashion sustainability activist. So I left what I see as a very consumerist environment that I'd been working in, not to take away all my learnings from it, for which I'm really grateful, but to be a sustainability activist, I had to live a certain life and be a different kind of consumer. And so my activism started with that. And here I am, still living in a jungle and talking to you about compassionate fashion.
Thank you. And I'm very honored to talk to you, talk to Bandana, who I'm respect and so delighted to finally meet you. And I'm sure all the audience are too.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. How can we start? Should I start asking about Gandhi?
Sure. I think we
Yeah,
can keep
many of
asking
yeah.
each other.
Okay.
Yes, to start with Gandhi, it's always a
Yeah.
great starting point because your brand is all about compassionate fashion. It's a feel it. You know what you wear on your body is part of your ideology. It is not just a thing. It is about being respectful of your environment, of the people, and the processes. And so I talk about Gandhi in the fashion space because Mahatma Gandhi followed a set of principles his entire life, which was
Yeah.
absolutely congruous to his whole being as a human being within his own environment, whether it was about nature or about people or about the cosmos. And one of the most fundamental things that I always tell fashion businesses to look into, because, you know, here we are, this is Helsinki Fashion Week, which is all about 3D and digital, which is amazing. But behind this digitalized version
Yeah.
of what we do and what we enjoy, there has to be a sense of humanity. So my job, in a very humble way, is to bring forth to you principles, Gandhian principles, that we can apply individually and into our own business practices. And one of them is ahimsa, which means non-violence. Non-violence in thoughts, deeds, and actions. And so when you start believing in very simple, but very sharp, focused, fundamental principles of who we should be as human beings, then whether you're a creator, designer, consumer, producer, sewer, seamstress within our fashion industry, if we work from the same framework of kindness towards each other, kindness to the environment, it changes the perspective of how you do your business. So that's why Gandhi becomes very central to my message about sustainability, because if we don't look at ourselves as human beings that can be sustainable human beings individually, then whatever we do in our lives is going to be insufficient.
Yeah, totally agree. And about the people behind the products. Even we are talking about digital fashion now. Yeah, there are thousands of people behind that works. And when I think about these people, why we are getting away from the people behind the product or works, I think it's because our supply chain in this economic system keeps getting complicated and far away.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't go away 100 years ago, just my mother said that she was wearing custom tailored before
Yes.
marriage. Yeah, at that time, people knew who made their clothes. They had
Yep.
to meet and yeah, talked not only about clothes, but also about their daily issues, probably. And then the clothes were already created some stories in it. But now, with
Now
the
it's different.
appearance of many mass production and fast fashion nowadays, we can buy clothes at the lowest price ever in our history, but we lose the stories.
Right.
So
I
yeah.
the consumerist agenda of
Mm-hmm.
the fashion business made so many people and so many processes invisible to us consumers, right?
Right.
We only, for us, what was fashion? What
Mm-hmm.
is fashion for us is what we see in storefronts and what we see on the ramp. The look begins and ends there. The
Mm.
product begins and ends on that platform, on a very undemocratic platform and very
Mm-hmm.
elitist platform, which is only accessible to the few. And
Mm.
fashion media, for instance, should be held accountable. Should be held accountable because fashion media made anything to do with fashion so inaccessible to the ordinary people like you and me, for instance, or
Yeah.
teenage girls who are saving their pocket money to go and buy their first
Mm-hmm.
dress or whatever it is. Fast fashion moved in and found a
Mm-hmm.
gaping hole in the consumer behavior, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone can't afford the Dior dress, everyone can't afford a Gucci handbag, and so
Mm-hmm.
fast fashion found this little gaping hole, snooped right in and made fashion accessible. But it's funny because you're paying for a T-shirt that costs $2.99, but it's
Mm.
sold to you as if it's straight from the ramps of Paris, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
we buy into the imagery of fashion, even though you're paying $2.99,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely oblivious to what does it take when you buy
Yeah.
something that cheap.
Mm-hmm.
A T-shirt in all honesty, and you can do this research because this is in the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. You can go there and you can get this information. Just for a T-shirt that I'm wearing right now,
Mm-hmm.
the cotton is grown in one country, right? Then it's
Yeah.
to another country to be beaten into yarn. Then it's shipped to
Mm.
another country for it to be dyed. Then it's shipped into another country to be turned into cloth, to spun into cloth,
Mm-hmm.
to another country to be cut into T-shirts, and then it will reach a country where I live in Bali, and over here someone will screen print "I love Bali" on my T-shirt, and I will for $2, and I'll wear it twice and shove it in my cupboard.
Mm-hmm.
How is it possible that for a T-shirt to travel into 5 countries costs only $2.99? Someone's paying for it. Someone, and it's always someone in a developing nation where they are being treated like animals so that we, living in richer countries, are paying very little in the back and the sweat and blood of people in developing and underdeveloping nations. So we need to be aware of what we are buying. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
when I wanted to become a sustainability activist. The backstory, the back end, what's happening behind the curtains of fashion.
Mm. Yeah, so here one more question. Yeah, I feel the current fast fashion feels like the past colonial states with wealth and power. What can the non-environment of Gandhi's principle means for current fashion or to us or to consumers?
Well, first of all, as consumers, we've got to
Mm-hmm.
stop pretending that my story ends by just pulling out money from my wallet and buying something, and that's it. We say basta, that's my
Mm-hmm.
engagement. I think as consumers, we need to hold big companies accountable. Look what's happening right now with COVID times. A country like Bangladesh, that's entire economy depends on the rag trade.
Yeah,
80,
right.
80% of the clothes that's made for the Western world is made in the Indian subcontinent and in Asian countries. Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, name it. All developing nations, right? 80% of the clothes in the Western world. And yet, we don't understand the power structure. With COVID, the supply chain completely collapsed, right? Because we live in such a globalized world. It's so globalized that my buttons are made in China, the embroidery is made in India, the cotton is grown in Bangladesh, the fabric is happening in Vietnam just for one product that costs so little. So we as consumers need to understand the interconnectedness of the trajectory, the journey of that product, and what kind of costs people are bearing, because we as consumers are willing to, so happy because it's new. We're addicted to novelty, to novelty, and fast fashion brands feed on that sense of novelty. So for a Gandhian principle, it's called Sarvodaya, which means welfare for all. You cannot continue to do a business where only a few benefit. And you can see that this feels like new age colonization, because poor countries are beholden to very rich companies, not even countries. They're 9, 10, 11 big multi-billion-dollar brands that are driving countries like Bangladesh into poverty, into deeper poverty. So this imbalance of power, it is new colonization. And we as consumers need to take personal responsibility and know what you're buying and where your money, your own hard-earned money, is going.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, and people know it's a good value and what is important. But I think we are already addicted to convenience and affordability and stylishness. In some ways, how can we, or how can a fashion brand like me, to show to live slow with being fashionable, how to show being mindful can be fashionable for contemporary consumers?
You know, there are a lot of people who must stand up to help designers like you who are doing such a phenomenal job. I've been on your website. I see the kind of fabrics that you're using. I know the kind of buttons you're making out of tagua nuts, which are, the ivory, but the fake ivory, which is amazing. Nuts, and you're making your buttons out of that. You're using eucalyptus, you're using linen and organic cotton. Now, because I am from the media, I worked in high fashion media. I'm a writer, I'm a journalist. Designers need to also make media people beholden to a higher purpose. If you are on that journey, then media companies need to respect, value, and honor your journey and do editorials and narratives that do justice to what you're doing, that is different from unfeeling, unthinking, mindless labels, whether they are big legacy brands or they're fast fashion brands. So don't expect that the onus is all on you, that you're the only person who has to change the world. No, me as a media person has to honor your story and talk about the whole process. You go and plant trees when this mass degradation of the forest fires take place, and you go and plant trees, and you're an engaged citizen of your country and of the world, producing clothes that require a storytelling that is different. It can't just, the trend of today is green, or black is the new black, 1960s is back, pop is back. Those are regurgitated again and again. And fashion journals become, in my opinion, the most regressive storytellers, because all the good things are happening around us. All the brands like yours, all over the world, innovation, technology, digital footprint of all these incredible. I can go on and on, but who is reporting about it in mainstream media in a way that they are also recognizing their responsibility? So it's not just on you as a designer. We as media people need to play a bigger role, and you designers need to hold us responsible.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And in this world we are living in, there are thousands of goods and advertisements. So we think, at least us, yeah, let's talk about what we think and what we value rather than talk about merchandise or promotion. And so, yeah, we try to focus more on messages and values without talking in tempting language or promoting purchases. I think that's what designers need to do now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I personally
yeah.
feel, especially because of what COVID is teaching us,
Yeah.
when you travel, when your supply
Mm-hmm.
chain is disrupted, then what are we going to do? We have to look into our own backyard for
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. We have to deep dive into our own backyard, not only for inspiration, but also resources. So, what can I make that
Mm-hmm.
is from things that are grown in my
Mm-hmm.
own cultural environment, right?
Yeah.
So because I can't think now, oh, I would love to get that amazing fabric from this country in, from a city in Italy because they make the most
Mm-hmm.
amazing silks, or that I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to get buttons from a city in China. We may not have that kind of globalized networks for a while because of COVID. So then we have to believe that we have to see what are the sustainable resources within our own backyard, in our own culture, that we can utilize, promote our own cultural difference. So within the difference of you, Korean, me being Nepalese, who lived in India, some other creator, that in our difference, we can
Yeah.
celebrate and we can celebrate and protect our environment by going local, by buying
Mm-hmm.
local, by being inspired locally. I truly
Yeah.
believe that the era of this globalization where everyone is the same, it's
Mm-hmm.
homogenized, big blob of everything. We don't need to be that. I want to see the
Yeah, right.
difference between culture and mine. I want to see how
Mm-hmm.
you get inspired by your culture, and I want to dip into your culture. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but we are unified by a certain humanity. So that
Mm-hmm.
should be common ground of creativity, humanity, compassion, kindness. Creativity itself is different.
Yeah, about that, here we have a question from on chatting. Yeah, how do you think designers can encourage a new culture that is making sustainability the new normal?
Well, I will look to your brand, for instance. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt for a minute that um, we are all people who want things of beauty. We want
Right.
beautiful looking products. We want to
Mm-hmm.
wear beautiful products. There's no doubt about that. So when you have designers like yourself who
Mm-hmm.
make really cool and sustainable clothing, I think you engage an audience without feeling a sense
Right.
of guilt. Because we
Mm-hmm.
live in a world where suddenly you talk about sustainability and it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a
Mm-hmm.
wide term. Like, what am I supposed to do? So we always wait for somebody else to solve the problem. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say if designers who are sustainable address a market full of millennials and post millennials who love cool clothes, and these clothes are sustainable and can tell you the journey of that garment and how many hands touched it,
Mm.
where you got the fabric from, how you're saving trees, how by
Mm-hmm.
just buying your product, I feel good about wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
I That's a way forward. I really believe that. And you do that very well. You've got a very cool brand that's sustainable.
Yeah, but yeah, still we feel we feel we are not enough because sustainable is a holistic. We need holistic approach. So yeah, but we don't want to rush, push ourselves too much. So we are enjoy our journey, and I feel very proud of you about working on sustainability. Yeah. So yeah, here where I can start from, I think.
I think we just need to start with incremental changes. You know, every
Mm-hmm.
time we talk about sustainability, designers get frightened, consumers get frightened because they think they have to make a massive shift in their lifestyles. But
Mm.
as someone, like for me especially, I work a lot with younger designers who are starting out, and I tell them they're the ones who
Mm-hmm.
are at an advantage because you're starting your business, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
can start planting the seeds of sustainability as your brand grows. And as your brand grows, so do your sustainable practices. And so when you look at the circular economy chart or your supply
Mm-hmm.
chain, if you had a chart of your supply chain, you can start making changes incrementally so that it is convenient for you to make a shift towards a more humane way of designing and be, as consumers, humane ways of consuming. So I just tell younger designers, don't be frightened.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be frightened
Yeah.
because you have to make that, 100% shift overnight because it is overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, and the last question is my personal question. I want to
Yeah.
hear about your life in jungle. How was it? How is it like?
I keep saying jungle because, it's, of course, I'm surrounded by nature. As you can see, the light
Uh-huh.
is dipping and there's a beautiful sunset. I've got coconut trees all around me. It's
Mm,
just
yeah.
incredible. Um, but it's still a very popular resort destination,
Mm,
Bali Island that attracts people from all over the world. So it is advanced in the sense we are, this is a digital nomad destination. So
yeah.
everyone, whoever's here needs a computer, and we all work from here. So it's we are barefoot professionals. So yeah, we work barefoot. We are usually in singlets and bandanas, like what I'm wearing.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's a simpler way of life. I can't bear
Mm,
to think of going back to a big hectic city and clocking in times in a concrete office, staring out
yeah.
from a cubicle. I gave up that life, and I will
Mm.
never go back to it.
Yeah, hope to be there if possible.
You should come
And
here to see bamboo fabric.
okay. And yeah, it's almost time, really. Yeah, I had such a great time with you, and you inspired me a lot, and it was so great time, and I'm sure our audience felt the same way. Thank you, everyone, and thank you very much, Bandana.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. And thank you for anyone who's listening. It's goodbye from
Bye.
Bali. It's so dark now.